Hey internets, this is Brooke Drum from Printrbot.com, Printrbot Live. And I apologize for the technical difficulty. We have to deal with app developers and hardware developers. Anyway, so we're a little bit late, I apologize. But at least you didn't know that I was late anyway, and I didn't have to take the credit for being late. So welcome to Printrbot Live. I got a little bit of news to fill you up in. I've had some people asking about my water jet, and I too am concerned about my water jet. Therefore, I will be fixing it tonight, finally. I almost started it today, but Brian Rowe, who, you know Brian, he came by a couple episodes back. He used to be my engineer. We were on the TV show together. Brian, I've been calling Brian, like literally texting him, I have to fix my water jet and I'm scared. Because I haven't done it myself before. What happens is you buy a water jet and you spend 6 digits. And then under a year later, Flo, your water jet screws up and you got to fix it. And they tell you, well, we can have a guy out there in like 2 weeks. And that does not work. So I decided, okay, I'm going to read all these instructions, I'm going to get all the documentation, and I'm going to look at what's done. And we actually have the tools to do it, and I think I'm qualified, but I'm still scared. And so Brian was in the woods up in Tahoe somewhere up there with his family, and he was driving back. He's like, call me, call me, call me. And he was like, what's going on with the water jet? And I said, well, we got to do a minor kit. It's like a minor repair kit or something like this. So you have to take all of these 3 cylinders apart and test pressure on all of them and replace O-rings. And I should show you this kit. This kit is $700 for a bunch of parts that I could literally hold in my hand, which is nuts. But anyway, so there are all these specialized parts right here, and I'm scared. And so Brian was talking to me, and I said, hey, do you think I could do this alone? This is not a good idea. You do not want to do this alone. So he's very, very busy. He's done a bunch of consulting gig, that he works on the clock. If you want to learn about a fascinating mechanical engineering project, check out the Long Now and Clock Project, and it's amazing. And I don't know if I was supposed to tell you that, but I think it's okay. But anyway, Jeff Bezos' property, they drilled down in a mountain, and they're building a clock that's going to run for
10,000 years?
Wait for it. 10,000 years.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know we were waiting for it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
10,000 years. Okay, so go Google that. That's hilarious. But anyway, so he's one of the guys doing that. And it's all G-code related. And he controls this like crazy robot arm KUKA one-off with a 8-foot chainsaw that goes through slate, 1 inch an hour, spiral staircase, all one piece. Crazy. Anyway. So Brian knows what he's doing, and I clearly do not, because he said, don't do that alone, Brooke, don't do it. So tonight, guess what's happening? Me and him are having a water jet repair party. So I'll tweet out some stuff and show you pictures of us taking this apart. The key is, on a water jet, we use it for R&D, but we do some light manufacturing with it. We didn't get a ton of orders for the printer belt yet. I think people are holding their breath. Is this real? Does this work? I don't understand it. Can I see more footage? Just hold on, it's real and all of that. But right now we only have a few orders, so we will be able to make those in-house as I transition to make those at our local fabricators that does a better job than I do, frankly. At least they're faster at it, and they have CNC equipment, so it's not any handwork. So as we scale up, we'll make them here. But anyway, so that'll commence. The model is done, the cloud, although I still have yet to hook up the Raspberry Pi image that will... Sorry, I just burped. That's going to make the reel. Bill from Polar 3D, he sent me this a week ago, and I have not even done it. We've been just printing through the plugins, but now we need to make sure the cloud is all working. He's done a ton of work. My hat is off to you, Bill Steele. So once we verify everything works, we got ours all printing long prints, we'll be shipping that printer belt. But here it is, the end of the week. Tomorrow's Friday, so hopefully this is next week that we're talking about, assuming that I don't blow up the water jet. So that's the water jet and the printer belt, and no big change. So 2 items that we have to cover. And by the way, if you have questions, I want you to forward those. Dave's watching. How do they do that?
They just comment as they're watching.
So as you're watching on Facebook, if you use the comment section to ask questions, he filters them and then he types them in.
No,
Oh, you don't filter them?
I just post them.
What I mean is, like, if there's 100 questions, I can't answer 100.
Right.
But so far,
we
there's only
almost
been-
answer all of them.
We almost answer every one.
If,
So,
if it's something I can answer quickly with a link, then I'll just give them.
Oh, okay,
But-
cool.
But if it's something that you need to speak to.
right.
I don't wanna-
So you can actually ask Dave questions while I'm doing this, and he'll just talk to you. But if you have questions that would benefit everybody, ask them now, because at the end of the show, we'll do questions. And if there aren't any, we're out. So ask them now, and they'll pile up, and we'll answer them. All right. So there's two things I want to talk about. Number one is the multi-extruder project. Notice that's not a product yet, but that's where we're trying to go. We do want this to be a product that I sell you a kit. And it's not just because when I sell kits, I make money. The reason is this is something that we did on, multi-extruders on the go. We had a multi-extruder, we had a dual plus for a while. And it just ended in disaster because it was so hard. Well, I'm getting a taste of that disaster today. So this is not all of the files that Mark designed. Mark Trombley is heading up this project. If you go to printrbot.com/dual, there's 3 links there. There's like a Imagine link, there's a GitHub link. I forget what the other one is. Firmware?
Imagine GitHub in a forum.
Oh, and a forum. And so I want you to go and get involved at printrbot.com/dual. And again, it's a project, so it's a bunch of community members trying to figure this out. So here's what we did. First I did this smoke and mirrors, like, this is how we'll do it. And then we started drawing files, and we designed this. I showed you this last week, I think. Well, this didn't work. It's terrible. So we're going to be getting in line with the designs that Mark did, but we're not there yet. So we have 2 paths for this dual extrusion. The first one is the one that Mark is leading. So he's done some files, some mounts to mount your extruder. Okay, so here's what happens. Your direct drive extruder turns into a Bowden tube, but it's a 2-in-1 Bowden tube. Now I'm pointing at this, even though this is Brian's design that clips on. I'll talk about that in a second. But I modified Brian's design to just go to my base with a little laser cut piece of wood. So ignore this. There's a part on the GitHub, or the Imagine, that Mark has designed that works well. I thought I had the right hardware, and I was wrong, Mark. So I had to hack this one. So I'm going to get all the hardware recommended in those pages that Mark has put together. I'm going to do his hardware, printed files, the hardware that he recommends, the Teflon tube he recommends. When I realized the Teflon tube that I had is different than what Mark recommends, I'm going to get in line with the community and order all the same stuff so that everything is identical, and so we all have the same, data, or we can all contribute in the same way. One problem with open source projects is it's like herding cats, which is funny because I've never done it. But I imagine it's like this comical, like 101 Dalmatians that, you got 100 dogs you're trying to get into a pen. It's impossible. So you have to provide focus. Focus. And so focus is, we're going with Mark's files first. And you're going to print those. You're going to mount those on any printer bot. Doesn't matter because it's a printer board. And we're going to use an extruder board. Now, we have ideas of how we can improve this. And I'm sure some of you guys already have like multi-extruder boards, and you could just go. That's fine, but understand we've got a bunch of people with printer bots, and they all have a printer board. So it's just like the biggest audience, you guys, that can get in line and get this. Now, in the past, I've said, hey, sign up for free extruder boards. Well, guess what? They ship tomorrow. Finally! And I was waiting because I was waiting on the Teflon. And then I find out it's the wrong stuff, so you're out of luck. You're going to have to buy your own Teflon tube. But get in line with what Mark recommends. Order those now. We'll ship them tomorrow to you. You're getting a little mount here. You can throw that out if you print his mounts, or you could use it. If you have a simple, there's a way to just mount it on here, but his is similar. You got these 2 motors and extruders. And on the back, I have these. I'm shipping 2 of these to you. These are the Alu extruder V1. I had a bunch of them. So I'm shipping those in the free pack. You'll get gear drives, the V1 extruders, And these guys are cool. Now you might have to replace that with this printed piece. But these are cool because they're short little arms, and you can mount two on one. You can even flip this. It's mirrored. I mean, it works either way, so you could put your arm out either side. But this will mount on a dual plus mount or what he's providing. So these feed through two Bowden tubes. They combine. That's my filament. These combine here, and all it does is retract. And so you can, this actually we had half running, which what's hilarious about a dual extruder half running is, you know what you have? A single extruder, which I already have. But here's what happened. So I got all this working. Mechanically, it's working. I've got the extruder board installed. I've got the firmware hex file, the firmware that Mark hacked, and I put it in here. And something's up. Something's wrong. It's not the motor. I either have something screwed up that I don't know what, but we've got a problem. We can extrude with the black filament, but when we go to try to move the second extruder filament, no go. Now, what's interesting is he hacked the firmware so that it just reads off the one thermistor. And so here's how it works. Normally, you'd have to manage two temperatures, two extruders, offsets, and everything. This is just using one hot end, so he mirrored the reading off of the first thermistor for the second extruder. So the extruder waits until it's hot enough to extrude. And when it's hot enough, it will say, okay, move that motor forward, and you know, it's called T0 and T1. Tool 0, tool 1. It's binary, 1 and 2. Anyway, so it says, you know, you can use either one. So it's just reading one thermistor. So it's really clever what he's done, but I haven't got it to work yet, so we're going to work on that. So we haven't printed anything. These are just examples of I'm talking about dual extrusion. So anyway, we're going to work on that, try to get this running and printing by next week. That's my goal. So you can go along with me. You will be getting your little free kit if you're part of the 10. So what if you weren't part of that free giveaway? How do you get an extruder board? Well, thank you, Dave. You can order one of a few extruder boards that we have available. How many did you count?
20 in the store.
Okay, so there are 20 extruder boards in the store right now for the low, low price of
20 bucks.
20 bucks. So what you'll need is you'll need that extruder board, you'll need a Printrbot, or at least you'll need a printer board. I'm sending a header. If you happen to have a board, version of the board without headers, you'll have to solder those. There's a little ribbon cable to connect the extruder board with the printer board on those headers. And you'll have to get another motor. You'll have the mount. You'll have to buy the Teflon. You'll have to buy the little Teflon mounts that are part of this design that Mark's provided. And then you should be good to go. A couple of filament colors. And you can turn your single extruder into a dual extruder, unless you're like me and can't get the software to work. So anyway, that's the hope for next week. And I'm reminded as I was trying today, just right before the show, I was on the phone with Mark like, what am I doing wrong? He took me through, well, you're in Repetier on Mac, and so we jumped over to Repetier Windows, and then it was a little bit easier. I don't know why that's different in the two, but there's a lot of different ways. I did a search today to refresh on dual extrusion, and it's confusing, but here's the goal. We want to make it easier, and hopefully we'll be able to do that. Mechanically, it will be easier, and the software has got to be easier. So we'll work on that, but we got to start to reach the finish line. So that's the dual extrusion update. Any questions concerning that?
Will the G2 board work with dual?
So the question is, will the G2 board work with dual? The answer is no, not yet. But Mark has an idea on that, and it will involve, and I'll have to get with Alden and Rob on this, but I do know that the Tiny G has multiple boards that they do have. I'm pretty sure, I know that the dev board that we had up to, I think there was 5 or 6, I forget, drivers for 5 or 6 motors. So originally I thought I want to do dual extrusion so we can do support and a material. So we started with a dev board that supported that. The code is no problem. You can do a bunch. But I didn't make a board that has an extra extruder because it used to make me mad
when I'm shipping out all this electronics that has cost involved to make certain things possible, like headers and stuff. And 99.9% of the people don't really do that. So I made a G2 board that's minimums, and we'll have to figure out how to connect another board or driver circuit. So we might have to make another PCB to make it possible with the G2, but believe me, that is where I want to go, to make it possible for the community to have an open source, free option to do multi-extrusion. Now, that said, I'm going to tell you, I'm also hoping to work with, I forget the name of them. The company that does, they weld the filament together. They're going to kill me for forgetting. Palette, it's the Palette or the Palette Plus or Mosaic. Mosaic, those are cool guys. I like them. We had a conference call. It's a good cultural fit. They have a product that they want me to offer that just, you just add it to your extruder. And what happens is you get out of their weird machine that does magic, you get filament that has like blue here, red here, white here, like all the different colors. And it comes in on your Printrbot without any mods like I'm struggling with. So it's a much simpler way to do multicolor, but you got to pay a premium to get that piece of hardware. And so we do want to integrate multicolored printing into our product. One way is, pay the man and get the Mosaic. But I think that I'm a company that's open source, so I always want to help people that want to do it for free or cheap. It just is going to be a little harder. But really, the problem with multi-extrusion is definitely software. And so Mosaic is working on that, and if they come up with a solution that's really easy to use. I know Prusa is also working on some software for multicolor extrusion. Now, he may not play nicely with Printrbot, but he's an open source guy, and I would bet that there's a way to use what he's designed also. But again, these bleeding edge solutions have some pain involved. So I'm going to try to provide the easy thing and the painful thing, honestly. All right, so that's multi-extrusion. Any other questions on that? I have a dual plus already, but like the single extruder dual color, I guess I would need a single extruder gantry? No, you just would only use one of them. So you got all the equipment, and you can leave that dual gantry on there. We do publish that model somewhere, but you could make another one that reclaims the room. Brian Rose calling. Hold on just a second. Hey, Brian. Oh, good, you're on the show. Yeah. When you coming by? Okay, it's going to be later. The intake manifold on your truck cracked and all the fluid drained out. Do you want to ride? Oh, no problem, man. Take your time. I'll see you soon. See you, man. Bye. Oh, poor guy. Car problems. All right, back to what I was saying. So the dual is a wider gantry on the Dual Plus, and it uses up, like that much more room out of the X. So you could still make it work, but you'll have a little less room until you get the single. So we don't really sell those. I don't even know if we have extras, to be honest. That product line is drawing down. So we don't know. But I wouldn't worry about it right now. Just get to printing. It's going to be something small you print anyway. You just wouldn't use the hot end on the second one, or the motor would be relocated to a Bowden tube. Those motors would. So anyway, totally possible. I'm pumped for the dual upgrade, but when will you guys start selling the flex plate for the old simple metal? What's the flex plate?
The spring steel.
Oh, so here's the deal. We already have them cut, and they're at the nickel platers. So we're working on it, but it just takes time. Actually, we have multiple models that we've already designed, cut. We got the material, we cut it, we ship those to the nickel plater, and I just didn't want to release the product until I didn't want to falsely hey, let me sell you something. Printer built, and before it's built. So I do that sometimes because I'm really excited and I want to know how many I need to build. But this, I know that these flex plates are going to be great. So those are in process, no problem. When do the Adopt-A-Bots ship out? So we have had 2 days of shipping the Adopt-A-Bots already. And that's actually the last thing we're going to talk about. I'm running long. Oh, it's 5. Started a little late. Okay, we're doing okay. These feet, we have like chronic feet problems with this stupid, it's not stupid, bot. I tell you, I had to make something poorly so people could just dog me about how lousy my option for the feet on the smalls is. I'm sorry, okay? But anyway, the Adopt-A-Bot. So we've shipped for a couple of days now. The first day there was only a few that went out. Well, let's guess 4, something like that. The second day, yesterday, me, Dave, and Jeremy, we all jumped in. We were getting everything ready. And we actually went as far as plugging things in, making sure the board worked, moved things around. I even printed on some of mine. So some of you guys may be looking for an awesome challenge, and your bot is going to arrive and it's going to work the first time. So your challenge is like make sure it prints really well, okay? And then like look it over and make it look better, like clean it up. I left the dust on it, okay? I didn't do anything except like, does it work? Now, if it didn't have a board that worked, we went and got a refurb board. We tested the board for connection. Some of them we tested completely that everything works, but we were pretty sure that we were shipping out everything with the needed hardware. So I saw one bot that needed a hot end, so I threw in an extra hot end. I saw one that needed an extruder because it was a printed extruder. I threw in a V1 alu extruder. So we tried to make sure all the stuff was in there that could make it work, power supplies and all that. But really, we don't know if it will work for you. There may be some stuff that you need to do, but you're getting pretty complete bots. Now, the funny thing was there was a very eclectic, if you watch my Twitter, there's a very eclectic group of printers that went out yesterday. And I found out today that all the boxing is all over the map. There's some that's this big. There's some that's this big. And so Tony was like, dude, I couldn't get to all of it. Tony's the shipping guy. So some more will ship out tomorrow. So we had 18 or so out yesterday to ship, but they didn't all ship.
We're about halfway through. We've got addresses for some of the rest.
Okay.
But then we need some more information.
Okay, so here's what happened. We had, I don't know, 25, 30 in the cart. Those went immediately. Some guys reached out on Twitter, oh, I missed it. And I knew that we're conservative. I had more bots than I really let on. So there was like a five or more, something we added later, and a lot of that was, I think I put a few in the cart, and then I actually accepted a couple of people, but now we're done. We're done, and we're done, because I'm out of bots. So we have about half the list that have already shipped or will ship. Are you saying that they have already shipped?
Green is already shipped.
Okay, so I'm looking at a list of green that's shipped, and so we have about half of the list left, and some we actually need addresses. So if you were one of those guys on Twitter or Google+, I'll be bugging you for your address and payment.
They should have got a support ticket.
Dave sent you a support ticket, so you should have got a correspondence from Dave asking for that. And then we're going to hook up a way for you to pay, because it's just, if I open up the cart, then what if I sell 10 more? I don't have 10. One other thing I want to mention is, I try to put a big, like, hey guys, this is for the honest people out there. One per person. I'm not saying that the people that did what I'm about to describe are dishonest. Maybe they misunderstood. But in the video, I was pretty adamant, like, I got to trust you people that these bots, I mean, $40 shipping and it's yours. And they do, a lot of them print, and they all have the ability to print. So that's a printer with a little sweat equity for $40. So how can you pass that up? So maybe if you're a high schooler with no money and you ordered 9, and we saw what you did, and maybe you need to confess right now that you shouldn't have done that. Or if you're just somebody that was like, what, I thought it was a great opportunity. I got 3 schools to donate to, and I ordered 3. I'm sorry. Well, we today had to return to sender because maybe I wasn't clear in a tweet or something. I don't know. Maybe it's my fault. But it was 1 per person. So we saw some people order more than 1, and we squashed that. And it's only 1 per person, folks. Equal opportunity. So we had to contact some people about that. So no big deal if you were one of those persons. I'm not saying, like, if you ordered 9, no bot for you. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you get 1. And hopefully you weren't doing something you shouldn't have been doing. But anyway, so that's that. That's going to happen this week. They'll all, you know what I said this week? That's a lie. I think it's going to take us till Monday.
Yeah, at least.
Monday, Tuesday to get all of them shipped. So we did the low-hanging fruit first, the stuff that worked, and then the stuff that just needed a little work, like I did a little bit of work on some bots. And then the next section is actually a little more time-consuming. We're putting the parts for the pluses together to make sure we have all the pieces and that the board works and the hot end works. Then we'll ship a big bag of parts out to those guys. So the plus people, some of you guys asked for a plus, but you asked for a challenge, so you got it. Some of these are betas. Anyway, so we're going to do a little bit of work to get those out. And then the last group will be, I had Repcord. If you're on Twitter, follow Repcord. He's a local dude. He even sells some 3D printing stuff, so check out his shop. In fact, he showed me, Dave, would you run to my desk and get that little wire tip cleaner that he sells? I wanted to show people that. But anyway, follow Repcord, check out his shop. He has donated his time to come down, and we've already done it once. He helped me with a bunch of pros. And the beta pros were really, we're talking about a pain in the butt. We changed parts. So we had all these parts. I forgot everything from the beta process. So I had parts that didn't fit certain versions of bots. We had to like untangle the code on what parts go with what parts go with what parts. So I think we've cracked the code and found the parts. So now I'll be able to put together some boxes of pro parts that are all mechanical, everything's there. And I might put those together. And then the people that are getting pros, it'll be pretty bare bones, and there'll be a lot of stuff to fill in for you guys. So again, the reason I went ahead and did this is because I can't build every bot up and make sure it works. Now, some I had that worked, but I can't promise that to anybody. So if you get a pro and it's a box of parts and you need wires and stuff, I'm sorry. But for $40, I still think it's a good deal. It's a fantastic deal because the hardware involved in that is still very good. So this is a I don't know if you can see this, but these are various diameters of wire. And so I've never done this, but I did it yesterday. So I had a clogged tip. I was doing a refurb. Well, I say refurb. I was getting a Adopt-A-Bot ready to ship, and I noticed that it had a clogged tip. So I used the right one. I forget which one it is. I found the right one, and I pushed through the tip, and sure enough, it was clear. So at least you don't doubt, like, is it the tip that's clogged? What it actually ended up being, like this gave me the confidence to fix it the other way. So the filament had actually been retracted while warm up into an area of the hot end that can have some stiction when filament cools up in that cold zone. So I knew that the tip was clean because I had my new tool, so it was pretty cool. So you ought to pick one of these up from Repcord on Twitter. But I forget the name of the website. But anyway, you could look it up. But gosh, I forget what it's called. But this was handy. Then I took an Allen wrench from the top and like beat it with a hammer to push that. I got the hot end unstuck. But anyway, so that's that. So he's going to come back next week and we'll finish those pros. So Repcord, come on back, Pooch. And that's what he told me to call him. And so we'll get the rest of the Adopt-A-Bots out. But the response on this, this is the last thing I'm going to talk about, so if you got questions. Adopt-A-Bot, hashtag Adopt-A-Bot. Yeah, baby. Oh, here's what we're doing. So me and Pooch talked about this, or Repcord. He said, you know, we ought to name these bots. And so at first I was like, yeah, I'm going to name these bots, but I could barely name my own children. So I'm going to let you name your bot. But I'll tell you what the last name of your bot is going to be. Printrbot. Okay? So like Edward Printrbot. See, I can't even think of a name right now. Dave Printrbot. Something. But whatever it is, that's going to be the name of your Adopt-A-Bot. So please name it. Tell the kids at the school that you're donating it to that it has a name. You pick it. You could do a little 3D print, name on the side, something, Printrbot. Would be helpful to me. But anyway, so name your bot. You can tag it on Twitter. And so here's how we're going to find out if everybody's been honest and not just doing it for them to have extra parts and crap. Name your bot and show us how it arrives. You can do an unboxing. Hashtag Adopt-A-Bot. All one word, capitals. But hashtag AdoptABot, so we can find out what you named your bot, what it looks like, how terrified you are that I sent you this one-off that no one even knows how it works. Maybe it's just it worked the first time, first print, when you deliver it to the school. Catalog your journey, and let me tell you what the biggest thing that my excitement has grown this week for this reason. Some people have written me and said, you know what's great is I've just hesitated to get involved in a local school with kids and to contribute to a community. Now, frankly, it's a lot of dads, which I think is awesome. I have done that for my kids at my kids' elementary schools and middle schools. I've gone to both and done classes about 3D printing, and my kid is just proud as pie. That's my dad. Nobody cares that I own a 3D printing company. They just thought, oh, cool, he's printing Yoda heads. I want one. Fidget spinners. I want one. So, but anyway, a lot of dads out there are going to be involved in their kids' school. A lot of community members are stepping up because I've given this opportunity to fix this bot, which they're experts at, and they can go, and here's why I'm excited, is because that person, here's what a lot of schools lack. They need someone to call when the extruder is jammed, when the motor dies, when the belts need tightening, when they have a question about filament that they want to use, when they have a model that this kid needs to print for a project and he doesn't know what he's doing wrong, but it's failing every time. So maybe it's just support. But we need somebody to be the boots on the ground for these schools all over our nation. And so I'm excited about, in a small way, these 30 bots are going to find 30 schools, Lord willing, that these people are stepping up and leading in their community at something that can really be a positive influence for education. Now, I believe in that. And it is costing me money to do this, so you know I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm for real. And so many people have responded and said, this is just a great program. I want to get in on it. When are you going to do it again? I want to get in on it. And it freaked me out a little bit that I don't have any more bots to give. But then I began to think, how can we solve this problem? So that's what I'm going to tell you about. So before I do that, I'm seeing all these things scroll by, Dave. Take me through some question and answers, and then I'm going to pitch to you how the community can get involved to do an Adopt-A-Bot program that could be much, much larger than what we did here last week. That's a teaser in the biz. Stay tuned. After this commercial break. So how about a G2 board demo?
So I thought, I don't know, we've talked about it before, but possibly next week.
I think that'd be great. Why don't we do that next week? So next week, tune in to see what is this G2 board about? How is it different than the printer board? Why would I want it? What does it do? And I'll tell you right now, it's 32-bit ARM processor, so that's awesome. It's quieter. It's way more sophisticated. And it's got a lot of capabilities that we're not even like touching yet, but it's really cool. You could put a G2 board on any printer that you have. And now that we have the heat bed, you can have a GT or G2, printer board G2 with a heat bed even. So it's just different. So you have to learn the new way of doing things. It's a one-time setup, and then you're good to go. It's like the starting G-code's different. But it's really, really nice. And it's so nice that all of our printers, we're in this transition period where all new printers that come out will be G2. And so I haven't yet proven that on the printer belt. So I am shipping these printer belts with a printer board. Just that's the one caveat I'll say. If I switch over to G2, I'll have to talk to the previous customers about, do you want a G2 board? But anyway, the G2 is awesome. We'll show it next week. What else we got? So can we buy the G2 board? How about the screen? Okay, so here's the deal. I have a new programmer. And, oh, I did want to tell you about this. I'm pretty excited about this. So when we sent the printer board, when we sent the Simple Pro off to Make Magazine, I found out right before that there was a couple of features in the cloud, specifically hollow printing on infill, brim. There's a couple of settings in the cloud that just frankly didn't work. I did a comparison test, so I was in between programmers. So I was doing 10% infill, 25% infill, light, dense, all these. The infill was all the same. So instead of Make Magazine trying all these settings and just like hammering me for it, I removed them. So we dropped to 1 infill percentage, and we stripped out brim and support. And some of you guys that were using it, oddly, the things that didn't work, I don't know why you miss them. But now we've proven, and Dave was doing prints yesterday, that the infill settings now work. You can do various amounts of infill, and we're adding those back in. Our new programmer is getting up to speed on adding back in features. So I was really excited about that. But the long-term goal is to have that cloud work with other tip sizes. So Tom, in his review, you can watch Tom's review of the Printrbot Simple Pro. He's a little harsh on it on some points, but if you look at it from the perspective of it's really for newbies or people that don't want to do all kinds of weird slicing, he really did give me a break in that he let his 11-year-old sister take it for a period of weeks and use it alone. And she gave me 4.5 stars, so I'm looking for her channel. Anyway, so she was able to use it alone, and it's the touchscreen and the cloud and the simplicity of what we've done that made that possible. So I think it's great for kids. It's my kids, that's the only printer they can use because it's simple. But the missing component, we've sold the G2 board without the touchscreen. So the goal is to have other tips work first on the Simple Pro, because he did say, I don't know why they chose 0.3. We did that because we wanted the detail to be really high. But I totally understand that you might want a larger tip and you want to use the cloud, so that's the first hurdle. And then the second hurdle would be, well, let's change the build volume, because if you change the build volume, you have all the same equipment on a Simple, then boom, you're ready to roll with the cloud. So you could buy these touchscreens with the G2 board and it would work, but I don't want to sell you that until it works. Now, if you're a developer that is into extremely complicated firmware, contact me, because this is an open source touchscreen, and it's a teensy controller with a ESP8622 Wi-Fi chip soldered onto it. If you want to play, then I'll get you a G2 touchscreen, but you need to be a programmer that has the stomach for it, because it's complicated, man. It's not for just me or Dave. It's for like smart people that know what they're doing. No offense, Dave. Programmers is what I meant. So if that's you, contact us, brooke@printrbot.com. But suggested names for adopted bots. Consuela von Printrbot. Perfect. We have a bot is born. This is a beautiful thing. Body McBotface. Seamus, let me read these. These are hilarious. Seamus McPrinterbot. Theodore Logan Printerbot III Esquire. Harry Printerbot. Greg the Printerbot. PJ the Printerbot. How do you say that? Friedrich or Froderick von Frankenbot. Hey, there's no Printerbot in there. All right, anyway, have fun, name your bot whatever you want, it's awesome. But make sure it makes it to a school, and it's a name that even kids could use, okay? All right, so here's the pitch. Any other questions? Oh, one last question. Has the Simple Metal been discontinued? Not technically, but kind of. Here's the deal. So I've been talking about transitioning between G2, Printrbot and G2, the new 32-bit ARM Printrbot. I've been talking about, I may have called it the old Simple at $600, right? $599 is what we sell this for. And then we came out with a Pro. It was $999. See how that works? It's more money. Why is it more money? Because these are round bars. I'm pointing to this, but the Pro over there has linear rails. It has a touchscreen. It has a cloud that you don't have to pay for. It has a finer tip for detail. Has LEDs. Has a heated bed. By the way, we changed, so it comes with a heated bed now. And this flex plate. It doesn't look like this. It's nickel plated, but it's a stainless spring steel, I should say, nickel plated flex plate to get your prints off. So that heat bed that goes to 110, magnets, so it's like the flex plate goes on top. Anyway, all linear rail. The cabling is super beautiful. You don't have to look at the cabling coming out the side. It is, in Tom's review, he said this is clearly the best Printrbot has ever made. It is mechanically superior. The touchscreen is not an iPhone touchscreen. You know, this is a touchscreen that we sourced in China. It's a little touchscreen that you have to touch. It's a nice looking screen. It has great color. But it's not going to respond exactly like your touch phone because we don't have this like fancy chip behind it. It's just we did what we could with the hardware that we could find and source and write drivers, or at least write the software firmware for. And the Wi-Fi chip. So it's not perfect, but it's so much better than this. It has feet. It has an on switch. Has a fuse. So like it'll pop the fuse instead of blow something up. No, that never happened that I know of. Anyway, so it's just far, far superior to this, and it prints really, really great. More moving parts. It's more money. So upon actually Tom's suggestion and others, you know, they're like, well, the Pro's great. It's an 8-inch wide bed versus a 6. So when you print something that big, you need a heated plate. We added it, same price. Flex plate, I love it. We added it, same price. But it's still in that range that's like, okay, it's like this. It's been upgraded to a wider bed, but it's still a little bit more money. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to offer the Pro without the heat plate. You can buy that separate later if you want. But we're going to sell the Pro without the hub. That was the main concern. I don't want it with the cloud. Don't make me go to the cloud. I am paranoid about the cloud. Some are. I don't have good Wi-Fi. Some don't. I'm in a school with an IT guy that will not let me get on with the requirements that you have. Okay, some are like that. So we are going to sell the Pro in another variant that's even less money, $799. So it's still, it used to be $599, Brooke. Why is it $200 more? Because everything about it is better. And it's going to print great. So you can use the G2 board right in there plugged in with the USB. You can change the tips out, which you can't do with the cloud yet. You'll be able to use the new Simple Pro. And it is a little higher price point. But I have a problem. You know, some people are like, just keep making the old Simple. And my answer is no. Because, no, I know that I can do better than this, and that's what we're going to do. So I'm not going to just make cheaper. I made cheaper with this Smalls, and I'm pretty proud of it. But it is exactly what it needs to be, cheap and small, and a kit. But it's not the best hardware that you can buy. The Pro is, in my opinion. So that's the real answer is we are making the last round of old Simples, I think next week even. It's very soon. We'll always have refurbs. We cycle those in whenever. But we're going to stop making this model. For some it was good enough, but those times are over. I have to get rid of the old and bring in the new because it's better, and it gives a better user experience, so that's what we're doing. So, and I have a replacement for the Pro coming too. So I'm sorry, the Pro. The Plus. I have a replacement for the Plus coming too. So a large format. It'll be similar to the, I've been calling it the prosthetic bot. But Create O&P sell a version of this that's 14 inches Z, 10 by 10. My version is going to be 10 by 10 by 12. And if we get a little bit more on the X and Y, we'll get it. But it's going to be a big enclosed. I say enclosed. I'm not sure I'll put a door on it or a top. But it's going to be big metal case, dropping Z. I'm noodling with it being called the Plus Pro. A little bit too much maybe, but the Plus line, this is truly the successor to the Plus. It uses the parts from the Plus, but it encloses it so you can put a top and a door on it. And it's got a drop, the same platform that we use on the Plus, but instead of moving all that mass around, I'm just going to go bloop like that. So anyway, that's the Pro. So going forward, we do have to get rid of the old models and bring in the new. The Play is really replaced by this. It's even cheaper. It's a kit, but the Play is going away too. So those old ones are going to eventually fade. As we run out of them, they won't be for sale. They'll be refurbs, and that's the end of it. Man, I cannot believe that I can talk for almost an hour without stopping. This is ridiculous. In fact, last week we were glad that we went out in the shop because it's just so much better than listening to Brooke talk for an hour. But it's information. If you want the information, here I am. All right. So here's my challenge. I'll keep it pretty short. There's a lot of details that are going to go into this if it happens. But Dave is going to share a link. And this link is a sign-up form. If you have interest in getting on a team that I would like to help organize, I would like to make an organization. Now, it may actually need to be a nonprofit. but I would like to make some sort of organization. Maybe it's just makers that don't have any affiliation with any legal whatever. It's just they're taking donations. But I'm saying like hardware donations. But this probably needs to be something like the Enable Hand Project, or there's other ones that are doing these prosthetic hands 3D printed. The problem with 3D printers is, what do you print? Why do I need to have a 3D printer? From the beginning of the RepRap movement, it has always been because you should print another printer. And we have all used that as a neat story, but it is the truth. It's how I started the Kickstarter. And it's how Joseph Prussia continues to make millions of dollars. I mean, he's got so many printers being made over there with a bot farm of like 300 and some. Taz prints a ton of parts. They got a big bot farm. I have a small bot farm. But you can print printers with this stuff, with these things. And I've always wondered, why aren't more people donating these printers to schools? Well, there's still a cost involved. There's still expertise. There's people that need support. So here's what I want to do. I want to put this, have you put this link live? Okay. So we're going to put this link live here in a second when I explain what you're signing up for. If you're a community member that saw me do this Adopt-A-Bot, wish you could receive for a local school an Adopt-A-Bot because of the goodwill of a community member and the sweat equity that he's going to put forth on something that I had laying around collecting dust. If you were a school that would like to receive a printer, you can sign up on this list and tell me that you're a school that needs one. If you are a community member that wishes that you could have been involved in helping tune or make or produce a printer that can be donated to a local school, you should sign up on this. The third, which is the one that I'm really going to be paying attention to, if you are somebody that, let's put 3D printing aside, okay? All of us are geeks, most of us, that do 3D printing and understand it and have our own printers. Some of you have multiple printers. But when you run an organization, there's a very key difference between somebody that 3D prints and somebody that can lead a team of community members trying to focus on the goal of donating or providing cheap printers to schools. So that's the vision statement. We want to form, I say we, I want to, you to form, let me restate. I want you to form an organization, and I want to help, that maybe it's a nonprofit, that its sole purpose is to provide young people free or cheap 3D printers for the schools. So the schools, I've been trying to do this for years, and every school is different. Every school has a different policy. Some need POs, some order with credit cards. Some want the cheapest thing possible, some want the best. Some have big budgets, some have small. Some have no skills, some have some skills. Some have students with skills. So it's all over the map. So what is missing? I think what's missing is organization, first off. A vision statement of what we're trying to accomplish. Really what we're trying to accomplish is teach kids how to do manufacturing through CNC and laser cutters and 3D printers. Well, I'm a 3D printer company, so 3D printer is the one that you can put on a desk of a student. You can't put a CNC and start, making chips. You can't put a laser cutter and have the whole class put on, the goggles. Some of that is dangerous, but you can put a 3D printer on a kid's desk, and many times magic happens, and they learn. They have a reason to learn. They can make stuff. And so that's what I know about, and that's what I want to do. And so I want to see if there's anybody out there that would be interested in forming an organization that organizes people. And I'm looking for people that sign up that say, I have experience as a leader. I have logistics skills. We're going to need people to organize. I have electronic skills. And I could lead a team of guys that solder. I could lead a team of guys that troubleshoot broken boards. I am a guy with a chop saw in my garage and a grinder. Well, you could cut bars to the right length. And we can all take one little part of the whole printer that needs to be delivered, and we can coordinate getting these to the right places, forming them either into kits or working printers, and donate them to schools. Now, I think someday we'll run out of stuff to donate because there is a financial component here. Well, I'm going to give the first big push to this organization, this pseudo-imaginary in my brain organization. So I don't have the manpower to just do Adopt-A-Bot all day long. I make no money on that. I spend money on that. But I do have, it just happens if you're a 3D printer manufacturer, you get returns, you get old boards, you get hot ends that are used, you get a lot of wires that are the wrong length, you get motors that you had to swap out and they got a scratch on it. You got all kinds of, I have all kinds of stuff out here. And it's taking up room that I need to get rid of. We're actually downsizing our space because I got a killer deal from my landlord. If you downsize a little bit, I'm going to save you a ton of money. So I'm going to do that. It's going to get cramped, but we're going to have some stuff that needs to get out of here. So I want to donate. So next week, if we get some signups on this and there's enough people interested, I can donate a huge amount of hardware and electronics and some hot ends. And so my goal is by the end of August, we can have 50, did I say the right month? August, next month. Okay. We can have 50 printers being prepared to ship to schools starting a new year. 50. I cleanly have enough stuff here to really get that going. So where are these bots going to come from? Well, they're not going to be off my museum shelves because we're done. We reorganized here, but you can see there's no wood anymore. I ship stuff. Anyway, that's over. So what modern printer is cheap and good enough open source to make? Well, there's a lot of open source printers out there, but I'll tell you the one I know about is this one. So, and this may sound selfish, but here's what, just stay with me for a second. The Smalls, I have prototypes of this that I printed in, okay, not completely. The bottom plate was metal and the build plate was metal, but the rest of it was plastic. There were metal bars, but there's already a lot of plastic components in this, and there's things that we could replace with plastic or even laser cut wood. There's, in this whole kit, there's one bend of metal parts, and that could be either two laser cut wood components, and some people do have laser cutters, or they have CNC equipment that could cut the plates, or totally possible for this to be made in 100% plastic. All the metal parts could be plastic. Now, you don't want a print bed that's plastic, but it could be glass, it could be something other than, it doesn't even have to have a sensor on it for Z. If you have different electronics that power it, you might need an end stop. Well, I've got a bunch of old school Rev D boards that don't, like you wouldn't want to run a heated bed off of them, but and you'd have to use a Z end stop that is a little switch. But for kids learning, it's great. So I literally have hundreds of Rev D boards, hundreds. So I could go way beyond 50. But some of those need troubleshooting. I need an electronics guy that's willing to take a lot of boards and test them, load new firmware, troubleshoot, and help us get to the 50. Because I can't do it alone, I need help. So I could give hot ends, printer boards, even wire that needs to be reworked, cut, resoldered, crimped ends, like all kinds of stuff that I could offer for free, but I need people that are willing to give sweat equity. So if you got wire cutters and a soldering iron, sign up. If you can work some metal so these rod lengths could be cut to the right length, sign up. If you're an electronics guy, sign up. If you're a leader that has managed people, sign up. If you got an outfit and a business that can ship stuff, sign up. Because I think it's time that not only Printrbot fans, but I'm calling out, oh, we're plugging in the camera because I'm too long-winded. I'm almost done. I'm calling out not just fans of Printrbot. I'm calling out other manufacturers. And my challenge is, I know from experience that you have stuff on your shelf that you cannot sell. It is time to donate those to the community, whether it's in Europe or the UK or Africa, wherever you're at, you need to donate those stepper motors, electronics, wires, hot ends. You need to donate those so that kids can learn 3D printing. We have to do this together. I would be great if Ultimaker shows up and says, you know what, here's $20,000 worth of equipment. We'll ship Ultimaker stickers. We'll give them credit for everything that they've done. This isn't just a marketing thing. Although I'm proud that Printrbot loves education, and you can tell people about that. I am proud of this model. I've done a lot of work to make it easy to build, and I think I can design this to be either 3D printed, laser cut, however you guys want to. You can even help redesign this to have fewer parts so that we can get more machines out to students. But first thing that has to happen is paint the vision. I just did it. Then people have to show up and do real work, but we need people to help herd the cats because we will need an organization that leads. and that's going to take talented leaders to do that. I'll be willing to sit on the board or whatever and use my resources sometime to ship things. But this is something that I believe that can start with the Adopt-A-Bot, me getting rid of my junk, and can continue with community members, not just organizations that build printers, but manufacturers should donate, but also, and by the way, I don't care if it's not this model. If there's something better, then we'll find it. But also, you community members, look around your rooms right now, people. Look around your rooms. Look at it. You have printers everywhere. What are you doing? Why do you have 8 printers? Tom, why do you have a backdrop of 42 printers and some that we don't even see? Okay? Give those away to schools. Get them working and give them away to schools. So Adopt-A-Bot is the hashtag. Sign up and go through your drawers and get the stepper motors. Get a box of stuff ready to ship out to this unknown, as of yet unknown, unformed organization that is going to put those to good use in schools across the world. So that's the vision. So let's make it happen. I can't do it alone. The Enable group is inspiring. They've made it happen in a very narrow focus. Well, this focus is get 3D printers to schools. I think it's achievable. So there you go. That's the pitch. Anything else we want to hear from? Any other? Okay, so that's it. We're going to leave you with that. And please do talk about this on Twitter, Google+, Facebook, social media. Talk amongst yourselves. If there's a club that is a 3D printer club and they too need something to do with their printers, this is a great thing. We need to make printers and give to schools because it's not happening fast enough. It's just not. So join the fun, people. I get to take part in something that's going to make a difference for years to come in students' lives. You can too. All right? So until next week, thank you for joining us on Printrbot Live.